Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Spider-Man podcast. The 1-year anniversary is here. This is Here Comes the Spider-Cast. I am your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man comics from November of 1983.
That's right, and to celebrate our 1-year anniversary, we have invited our frequent co-host to join us this week, G.I. Jolie.
Hello, and good morning to y'all. Sorry, again, I've been watching Baby Pig a little bit, so don't you just love that part? Anyway.
So yeah, I can't believe it's already been a year, but yeah, here we are.
It's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
It's been a year and Black Cat is still in the hospital.
Oh my
Right.
God. Yeah, she is.
And the funny thing is we're reading these every week. Can you imagine reading them once a month? It'd be spread out even more, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so this week, so we've got 4 comics this week because we're also doing the Amazing Spider-Man Annual. We're going to start off this week with Amazing Spider-Man 246, which is kind of an oddball issue. It's not really part of the ongoing narrative, but I'm going to summarize it quick here. So we've got a cover here with J. Jonah Jameson punching out Spider-Man, drawn by John Romita Jr. as usual, and of course he's smoking a stogie as he's punching him, and he's saying, "I've dreamt of this moment for years, Spider-Man. Now at last, J. Jonah Jameson is triumphant." So we get a shot of the Watcher, and I have read this issue before, but I forgot what happened. But for a second, I thought because the Watcher was involved, I thought maybe it was going to be a what if, but it turns out, it just turns out that because the Watcher used to narrate every issue of What If, eh?
I mean, it does kind of feel like a what if in a sense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the intro, he's talking about how the different universes, and then there's also like a whole nother plane of existence that's just for dreams, where everything kind of happens.
Right.
So in a sense, it kind of does feel like a what if, and it's like half explained as it is a what if, but it's just kind of like what if in their dreams or in their minds. So,
well, there's one thing about stories that I don't know. There's a rule that I kind of follow, and that's that if you get to the end of the story and it all ends up being a dream, it's kind of completely pointless.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, that being said, though, at least this story gives some insight into what each character's fantasies are. So let's just go through this quickly here. So we cut into Black Cat, who, surprise, she's in the hospital. And she actually has a thought bubble that it so took my notice that I was going to message it to you guys, but Jolie, you ended up messaging it to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
lo and behold, her dream is getting out of the hospital.
Yeah. But as she's sitting there in bed, she's thinking, how long have I been here? A month? 2? It seems like forever. And it's
it sure has been.
Sure has been. Yeah, the readers agree.
Because you have been in there forever, girl.
Right. And so basically she starts doing her stretches, and then it cuts over and Spider-Man comes in and gives her Black Cat costume, which just last month he said that he never wanted to see her in again because it represents her past as a cat burglar and blah, blah, blah. So now she's there. And now he's there to give her suit. So she puts it on and he's like, we've got an outing. There's something, I want you to help me steal. And so they go over to this building, and he lowers her down, and she steals some secret documents from like this. What is this here? Like, a foreign embassy. So they steal some secret documents.
Right.
They go to a boat. They meet someone on this pier. They give him the secret documents. The guy. It's funny because then the guy's like, I know we can never fully repay you for this, but please accept this token payment of $500,000 on behalf of a grateful nation. But of course, you're too kind,
Yeah.
And then this is
handful of bills that equals $500,000.
Yeah.
A small stack of what,
right.
$1,000 bills?
Yeah, $1,000 bills. And then it's funny because then as we know, Black Cat does not know what Spider-Man looks like underneath the mask. So when he pulls off his mask, sure enough, it's Cary Grant. Now, just so the listeners for those that don't know, I just want to know first, Jolie and Josh. Well, Jolie, you're familiar with Cary Grant, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Josh, are you familiar with Cary Grant?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, because I'm a big Hitchcock fan, and this is to me a reference to like North by Northwest, and I mean Hitchcock did a bunch of spy thrillers, but I just want to point out we were supposed to have a special guest with us tonight in the form of Ricky Lima, but he did have to call in sick. But I just want to give a quick note from Ricky, and this is his review of the issue. I was like, who the fuck is Cary Grant and why do I care? Comic was too old. So
that's
I
very
told
Ricky.
him, yeah, very Ricky. I told him to make up for his lack of Cary Grant knowledge. I'm going to be launching a Cary Grant podcast with co-host Ricky Lima coming up soon. All right. So yeah, look for that. Look for that on iTunes. Anyway. So that's Black Cat's fantasy. And then of course, this is the point where we realize she's been daydreaming. Oh, if we didn't figure it out already, right? So now we cut over to J. Jonah Jameson, and J. Jonah Jameson his fantasy is having a fist fight with Spider-Man and beating him, and then there's a newspaper headline: Publisher defeats Spider Menace. Jameson named Publisher of the Century. And then of course it snaps back to reality, and it just says Spider-Man does it again, aerial battle. So that's where we realize he's been daydreaming. Then we cut over to Mary Jane. Okay, what's her fantasy? So this is actually, I kind of always thought that she always was just a model. I kind of forgot that she was an actress as well, which is how they did her in the movies. But here she's going to see a movie with a date, and it actually, or is it a play? It's a play, right?
Yeah, it's like a play. Yeah.
Schubert Theater, right? And it says at the top, coming soon, the Mary Jane Watson story. And it's kind of funny because they're looking for someone to play her, and she just goes in and she's like, well, why get, and it's implied that it's Meryl Streep. And she's like, and then the casting director's like, what we need is someone more like the real Mary Jane. And she's like, look no further, boys. I'll play myself. And so it's like, ha, ha, ha. So she's going to play herself in this play. So then she snaps out of it, and that's her fantasy. And then we cut over to Spidey, and we see Spidey's fantasy, which is defeating a street full of supervillains, taking pictures of them, and basically to prove to J. Jonah Jameson that he's actually not a menace, that he's a hero. And at the end of his fantasy, we see a headline: Jameson eats crow. And then and then also at this point in issues of Avengers, which we're going to be reading in an upcoming episode, he was sort of trying to get onto the team. And there's also a famous story in Spider-Man #1 where he tried to join the FF, the Fantastic Four, but it's only because he thought they paid well and he needed the money. And so there's references to all that right here. And basically now you have the Fantastic Four and the Avengers fighting over which team Spider-Man will be on. And Spider-Man's like, fellas, let's not come to blows. Tell you what, I'll be an Avenger Monday through Wednesday, and an FFer Thursday through Saturday. Sunday will be my day off. And then Iron Man, can we live with that? Captain America Cap. We'll have to, Iron Man. Spider-Man's calling the shots now. It's pretty odd. But then, of course, it's kind of cool because then in his reflection in his shield, he sees that he's like, wait a minute. Something's wrong here. Cap's right. Look at Spider-Man's reflection in his shield. What kind of jip is this? Racial slur. He's no hero. He's just some skinny kid. So there we go. Some imposter syndrome on the part of Peter Parker. It's great, right? And then Spider-Man wakes up from his daydream, and he sees a kid getting beat up on the street. He helps him out, and then the kid's like, "Wow, Spider-Man," and he talked to me. Look at him go, swinging over the rooftops, easier than I cross the street. Boy, I wish I could be like him. But who am I kidding? I could never be like Spider-Man. But what the heck? I can dream, can't I? Wah wah wah. The end. So there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was a pretty cool issue. Again, not part of the ongoing story, but some nice insight there. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cute. It's a good standalone story. It definitely doesn't have anything going on in the grand scheme of things, but it was pretty cute. It was nice to kind of see, what everybody is up to and kind of their hopes and dreams. Right.
What about you, Jolie?
Oh, it was fun. It was the best of the four, the stack.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that.
If that says anything, I don't know.
It doesn't, but that's the thing is, like I've said before, I know that Joss Whedon was influenced by X-Men, and I'm pretty sure he was influenced by Spider-Man, because this feels like something Buffy would do, like in one episode, just do like a little one-off episode where just to kind of get more insight into the characters, Like if you're not going to advance the story, at least reveal something about the characters, and I think that's what this issue did. So yeah, I really liked it. There's not really much to say about it. I mean, the only real difference from the regular issue of Amazing Spider-Man is that the inker is different. Did anyone notice a difference in the inking from Dan Green?
No.
No, I actually didn't, to be honest.
Okay.
I didn't even realize.
Well, yeah, like Dan Green is, I think, most famous for inking X-Men. He inked John Romita Jr. on X-Men, and then he inked Mark Silvestri. And in my opinion, he's kind of got a really loose, sketchy style. He's never been my favorite inker. But when he's teamed up with Mark Silvestri, he's really good. But, you can see in this issue, I think he's a little bit tighter than last month's inking by Dave Simons. But other than that,
sure.
it's pretty typical. It kind of fits in with the previous issues, so it's not drastically different.
Yeah, like there's subtle differences, especially like you can see it in hair and clothing, but that's really about it. Like there's nothing so stand out that it's distracting or dare I say stand out. But I do want to point out that I think it's hilarious that like in the J. Jonah Jameson dream sequence, we see him as he thinks he looks. So I think it's hilarious. His brush cut is brushier.
Right.
His tracksuit is trackier. Right? Like it's bell bottoms. He's standing up straight. He looks like money. Like his stogie isn't. It looks almost like a blunt. So I think it's funny. And then he goes into the press where the printing presses are, and everyone in there is dressed like it's 1940s like communist Russia.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
They're just trying to get some propaganda like out to the masses. Yeah, it's so good. It's so funny.
Yeah, like this is definitely, again, a fun issue. It's something that I don't think they do much nowadays, but I could be wrong. But I also barely read any comics. But apparently no one else does because DC went out of business this week. But anyway, let's go on to the next issue.
One small thing I'll say too is
sure.
Something I noticed was the Hobgoblin in this issue in Peter Parker's dream has two heads.
Whoa, I didn't notice that.
Which I kind of find interesting because he doesn't know yet that the Hobgoblin has been two different people.
Whoa!
Easter egg!
But Roger Stern knows.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I don't know if that was intentional, or if it was just supposed to be like a hideous monster version of him, but everybody else looks pretty normal.
Actually, you know what, Josh? I hate to burst your bubble, but I think that's a coloring error because if you look really closely, the one on the right is not Hobgoblin, it's Green Goblin, because you can tell by his mask has the pointy thing at the top. So yeah, I think it's just it's an amalgamation.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm trying to find him in the panel below and it doesn't show him.
No, he's just gone after that.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, there's. I mean, again, I love this issue. I recommend it, but there's not really much more to say to it. Does anyone else have anything to say?
No, I'd recommend it. It's a fun comic to just jump in and not have to have any prior knowledge about. You get the gist of everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Like if you know Spider-Man, you get it.
Like, even if you don't, I feel like you will, because there's enough of like getting to know the characters in this issue that this could be somebody's first issue, and I think they'd be fine.
Right.
Because I feel like you get to know Jameson, like you get everything that he's about from his dream and like what his aspirations are. Same with MJ, and then Spider-Man even. You get his powers. You see a bunch of his supervillains. You see him setting up the camera and taking pictures of himself, and then going back to the Bugle and getting an award for this amazing picture that he took. And then after that, when it snaps back to reality, he saves a nerdy kid, And even the narration of the nerdy kid saying, I wish that was me. It is him, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like this could be somebody's first Spider-Man comic, and they could definitely get a feel for what the character is and what the story's about.
Right. Jolie, anything else to say about this issue?
No. Other than I'm happy to finally have read something. I'll probably if I ever come across it, I'll be like, hey, I've read this one. It's not bad.
All right.
Okay.
If you read it, you wouldn't be upset.
Right. Ooh.
Well.
All right. Singing the praises of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, it's the shiny penny in this stack of trash this week.
Well, that's what I mean. In a way, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that Ricky missed this episode. But anyway, let's move on to the next one in the form of Marvel Team Up.
To expand on that analogy, we've pulled out everything that's in our pocket. We've picked up the shiny penny first, and now we move on to the dried piece of lint that is Marvel Team Up.
Oh, I had such high hopes.
It's okay. I will say this issue of Marvel Team Up, I think, is better than a lot of what we have read.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a small piece of lint,
but it's not good. It's. I don't know.
The key thing is, number one, it's Bill Mantlo's second issue, and it's already not as good as his first issue.
Right.
Then the other thing is because it's Kitty Pryde, we all know, I'm assuming we all know how Chris Claremont writes X-Men. And so there's even that gigantic contrast, and I'll just leave it at that. But Josh, you can take it from here.
Okay, so we start off the issue with Spider-Man riding the subway, and it looks like the subway is kind of speeding out of control. I don't even remember they're just like thugs that he's fighting. I don't even remember a motive. I don't think it's definitely not important to the story what's going on.
Right.
But this subway cart is heading straight for another one. So Spider-Man has to clear everybody out of the way of the one subway and then jump over to the subway that is standing still and get them out of the way. And he successfully moves everybody out of the way. But it looks like he was kind of destroyed or killed in the crash. It turns out that he flew off to the side and he was carried away by Morlocks.
Right.
And Morlocks are these they're kind of like mutants, but not
mutants.
really.
Yeah,
Okay, so they for sure mutants?
Oh yeah, they're mutants. It's just that the idea is that they're too unsightly to live in the general populace. So they just decide to live underground.
Yeah. Gotcha. So Spider-Man, after saving the subway, is knocked unconscious and is hauled away underground by Morlocks. And then we cut to Kitty Pryde as she is on the phone with Storm as she's babysitting because Xavier wants Kitty Pryde to be more human not more human, more like a teenager and less like a superhero. She's not very happy about it. The kids keep annoying her. She yells at them to head to bed, and she goes back downstairs and heads to bed herself. And while she's asleep, the kids decide to run off, and they're looking at this bottomless pit. Or I guess it's not bottomless, but this black hole of a pit. Yeah. And one of the kids falls in, and he runs back to go get Kitty Pryde. They both run back, and they jump into the hole to save the kid. And that's when the other kid is taken over by Morlocks as well and dragged underground. Yeah. Then so they end up throwing the kid in jail or in their little prison that they have there. Mm-hmm. He meets up with his brother and Spider-Man, who is chained up by this electrical beam chain, and the kid realizes the only way to stop it is to add water. I don't get what this kid was thinking, but to splash water on the electricity, and it zapped Spider-Man awake so much that his like spider strength took over and made him escape.
Because we all know if there's ever an electrical fire, the first thing you do is you throw water on it, right?
Water, yeah.
Out, right? Yeah.
So then Spider-Man kicks down the door, and Kitty Pryde is also walking towards the door with the keys at the exact same time, and the door goes right through her as Spider-Man kicks it open. Spider-Man sees it but kind of dismisses it because he doesn't realize she's a mutant and that she's Kitty Pryde yet. Then the Morlocks come out and start fighting them, and he sees again this Morlock jump through Kitty Pryde, and he realizes who she is. They fight the Morlocks for a couple of pages, and then one of the Morlocks throws something at a stalactite. It starts like a cave-in, and they escape through the sewer, and it ends kind of abruptly with them standing in the middle of the street. And when Kitty Pryde says she's going to call Xavier to bring the jet to come and get them. That's it.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, not great.
First, I want to ask G.I. Jolie, what's your knowledge of Kitty Pryde?
She's an X-Man.
Have you read any? Have you read any Kitty Pryde stories before?
Yeah, the ones where they introduce her, like her first appearances.
Okay.
I think she was in the Dazzler a bunch.
Right.
But yeah, like I know who she is.
So yeah, going in with that knowledge, was this what you expected from a Kitty Pryde team up with Spidey?
That it was like the Babysitters Club or Adventures in Babysitting. No. This could have been any like faceless, nameless teenager.
Mm-hmm.
It really, it's just very interchangeable. Other than the fact that she kept saying the names of X-Men. There really wasn't like a
right
another way to know that she was Kitty Pryde. Oh yeah, and then the whole being able to move through things or whatever.
But that doesn't end up helping them at all.
No, it really doesn't.
Like she ends up going like moving through the door that Spider-Man kicks down, but they already escaped. And then even when they're fighting the bad guys, like I don't think she ever actually like punches anybody or does anything. She evades somebody by, making them phase through her. But then after that, I mean, I think Spider-Man throws her at a bad guy at some point, but like, I don't know. It just feels like the fact that it was her was very inconsequential to the story, and it could have been any teenager and the story would have been the exact same.
Yeah, because even when they get to the... Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, even when they get to the end and he's like... The kids are like, oh, we're in New York. And Spider-Man's like, yeah, that's where I'm from. And Kitty's like, well, that's not where we're from. Like, it was almost a really big exclamation mark as to why their two stories... it was like a reminder that their two stories should have like never meshed. This probably would have never been possible. And honestly, I didn't know how that they were gonna like. The kids and the Morlocks were a really weird, very very stretched, thin way of bringing them together.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think even worse than that is like we always talk about how it doesn't feel like Spider-Man belongs in the story. But okay, first of all, if you're going to have a Spider-Man story or you're going to have a Kitty Pryde story, Spider-Man being imprisoned by an electric, force field is not the first thing I think of when I think of a Spider-Man story or a Kitty Pryde story. It just feels like generic sci-fi adventure story, and like even the more like Chris Claremont, I like his writing, but one of his problems is he kind of doesn't know where to draw the line with what to include in X-Men and what to not include. So he like throws in aliens, he throws in time travel, he throws in vampires. And this is another example where you've got this science fiction concept of an underground civilization mixed in with mutants. So it's kind of twice as unrealistic now. But then on top of that, just the scene of him, like Spider-Man locked up or whatever in prison like that, it just really irritated me because, again, like we said, this could have been not only any teenager, but it could have been any superhero. It didn't have to be Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So to me, if you're going to have Spider-Man, you either have to, or if you're going to have Kitty Pryde, you either have a story where Kitty Pryde comes to New York City and intermixes with the Daily Bugle, or you have Spider-Man go to Westchester County and mix it up with the X-Men and their mansion. But instead we take them both out of their environment and stick them in the frickin' Morlocks underground sewer layer, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's why it just doesn't work.
Yeah, like even another stretch would be like Peter is visiting Aunt May and that cottage, that home she buys for her and all her friends. Like maybe it's close to this house where she's babysitting. Like even that would have made more sense than this. Like how like, getting them both into the same spot rather than bringing one to the other. I see what you're saying, and I don't know why they don't do it. They take Spider-Man and then they take, say, the Fantastic Four, and they try to get them both to a location by stretching both of their realities in a way that like would never happen in either of their worlds.
Right.
Yeah, I don't mind taking them both out of their element for a story, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't make sense. The kids find this endless pit that they like fall into. Like it just I don't know, it seems out of nowhere. I think that if they would have leaned into the fact that she was an X-Men and like I don't hate the whole Babysitters Club aspect of this.
I don't hate it either. I like that. Yeah.
If these were X-Men, like if these were new kids at the school.
Oh yeah.
And she, instead of going on a mission with Storm, she has to stay behind and watch these two kids. And then the two kids run off and want to be superheroes and like are playing around this endless pit. Like that makes way more sense than these two like snot-nosed humans just want to go play their adventuring game by this, Right. It doesn't feel like it fits. And then you have a reason for the X-Men and Spider-Man to like be together. It just Kitty Pryde doesn't feel like it literally could have been replaced with any character. It being Kitty Pryde did not matter.
You're right. And that's the thing is, I would rather see a story where, like you said, like or maybe Peter Parker's at Aunt May's and he looks over and he sees a girl and he's like, hey, that kind of looks like Kitty Pryde. And then somehow they have this weird adventure where maybe she doesn't know that he's Spider-Man or he doesn't know that she's Ariel or I don't know what. But that would have been way more interesting than this.
Yeah.
Also, do you know what? Even as much as having read her first appearances and just some, throwaway adventures with the X-Men, finding out that she's also referred to as Ariel was strange.
Well, yeah, because her whole history is confusing because first she was Ariel, then she was Sprite, then she was Shadowcat, but everyone just calls her Kitty Pryde. And so as you can see on the cover, it's Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde, but on the inside it says Stan Lee presents Spider-Man and Ariel because they could never settle on a name, And she's also in costume on the cover, but not in costume in the book. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe this is the big lint, not the little lint. It is definitely a big piece.
Yeah, like other than I always get a thrill out of seeing other creators take on the X-Men, but other than that, there's nothing to recommend with this issue. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. It's not terrible. It's just not standout at all.
No, there's nothing special about it. It's just more garbage.
Yeah, Josh.
It's better than it's better than most Marvel team ups, but it's still not a recommend for me because there's still just like there's just still something missing. Like it's there's so many like good small pieces to it, but they can never like flesh out the story enough where it makes sense that these characters are together. And I think that's what's so tiring about these comics.
But I'm still glad it's Bill Mantlo and not J.M. DeMatteis.
Yeah.
But anyway. So yeah, another dud. Okay, so on to the next one. Now we're going to do Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 84.
Hooray.
Jolie, do you know this one? Do you want to do the plot for this one?
Sure. Okay, so this is the unwrapped candy inside your pocket. You know, the
Oh,
one that you
That's
sent
already
through the
been
wash,
moistened in your mouth. Yeah.
right.
already pre-moistened
Yeah.
inside your pocket. Somehow it's come unwrapped and you've washed it. It is stuck in your pocket liner. Okay, so the adventure starts with a man named Brian Daly. His baby gets snatched while he's doing like sort of like a well, he's out and about glad handing, trying to make
Right.
himself look like a family man with his baby. His baby gets taken by a woman named Conchita Hernandez
Uh,
for no reason other than she was like, "Oh, it's Brian." He like this is actually there is a reason, and her reason is this politician said he would help me. Okay, he I need help. If he's going to help me, the only way I need help is to replace a baby I lost. So I'm going to take his. Oh God, cue violins. I don't know. That's really where the crux of the story starts. I don't. They really shoehorn. Um, they really shoehorn Spider-Man into this. But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, and I'm really excited about it, is that it's 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 hospital release day for Felicia in this issue of Spectacular Spider-Man. And like of all people to be worried that it's Spider-Man. He's like actually got reservations about her leaving the hospital. And I was like, no, he's gonna find a reason to keep her in there. But he doesn't, and I'm shocked. So he
Mm-hmm.
meets Mrs. Blackhat. Uh, I'm
Yeah.
assuming for the first time, and he's
Mm-hmm.
released from the hospital. But the thing is, he convinces her, even though we've seen her in other issues of Spider-Man books, like she's just kind of laying in wait, stretching, or like even just working full workouts secretly so doctors don't see her. He somehow convinces her that she should just recuperate, even though she's been recuperating for a year in this hospital.
Right.
He's like, no, I don't want your stitches to get ripped open. What
Mm-hmm.
stitches? Those it should have healed by now.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I don't know why he goes to sorry, he packs Felicia away. She's all safe, and he heads to the Daily Bugle, and it's been turned into like a soundstage to do some kind of promo. To for Brian Daly, that politician, to tell the world, look, I'm looking for my baby. I really want my baby back. And then there's a whole like montage over breakdancing and rap music
Yeah.
where he's like he's swinging through the city, and also the lady who stole the baby is walking in the same panels and the same quote unquote ghetto where these break
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dancers are rapping and breakdancing
Yeah.
to the beat, and he's just swinging to the beat, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
I found it so
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. So she walks into the ghetto. She's used all of her food stamps to buy things for this baby, and a bunch of thugs who are reading the newspaper on the same stoop of the apartment that she all lives in. They see the baby and they realize, oh, there's a reward out for this kid. We could steal the baby from Conchita and give that baby back for a reward. Oh God.
are babies that recognizable
Yeah.
that you can see
Wait
them
a
from a
minute.
glance and be like, oh wait. Also, we
Well,
don't. Wouldn't they know that she already had a baby before this one went missing?
you would think so, but
But okay.
I mean, I guess the thing is, and thank God for color, um, because he's blonde haired and blue eyed, and that's
mm-hmm.
the only significant like factor is that they can see
Mm-hmm.
because the woman who's stolen him is uh Conchita Hernandez, obviously not
Hmm.
the actual mother, but like also how do they know? This
Mm-hmm.
systemic racism is rampant in this one because it's like
Yeah,
the
it's
baby
rough.
is the only white person in the quote ghetto, so he must not
Mm-hmm.
belong here. But
Right.
he clearly does not belong in this area of town. So anyway, Spider-Man is like, no, I gotta find this baby too. What? So he goes to the quote shadiest place he can think of, the local arcade. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. It's like, okay. Anyway. And there are people there who there's like a fight. I don't know why they fight with Spider-Man. He ends up getting information from somebody in there.
Yeah, it's like a secret gang. This arcade is a front for a secret gang in the back or something.
Yeah, he does mention that he's
I
like, well,
don't
I
know.
did shake up the dope dealer. Yeah, maybe the arcade is in the ghetto. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they just have a lot of info. Cut back to Conchita. The thugs bust her door down, snatch the baby back. But by then, Spider Man learns of the whereabouts of the baby from a small black child who's just wandering around in the neighborhood. But
Yep.
he gives Spider Man a real good shakedown. Like, like, like the kid actually says, "You want to play? You gotta pay." And Spider Man's like,
Mm-hmm.
"What? Why you little twerp? There's a kid out there somewhere." And he's like, "Don't go lecturing me on civic duty, webman. There's a reward, and I want it. Deal?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, respect. This kid has got game. So he finds out from this wandering small black child where the child's been hidden, but it's too late. By the time he gets to the apartment, the door's been busted down. She's been beat
Mm-hmm.
beyond probably recognition. In one panel, it looks like her eye is gouged out. Like the
Right,
way it's
right. That's
drawn,
just
it was like, oh my
uh-huh.
god.
Yeah.
They really just, there was three of them. They really didn't need to do that much damage. But it's really, oh, they couldn't take a bus. This guy runs from the ghetto to wherever he thinks he's taking this baby, and he like falls into a hole, which looks like it's a sewer, and inside that hole are also rabid dogs. It's
Uh,
honestly it's the stickiest pocket candy I've ever had to that
Mm-hmm.
ever
Mm-hmm.
sticky, you know?
Wild dogs. All
Yeah,
those
and
wild dogs in New York, right? Yeah.
wild dogs, or maybe like oversized rats, but they look like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure they're dogs. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
huge splash page of him fighting these dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it looks like they're potentially at a dump. But anyway, um,
yeah.
the baby gets back to Brian. His name is so regular, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So regular, and uh the I guess Brian's wife is like, well, now that we have our baby back, serves you right for exploiting our child, so you can look like a family man, because women who are married to politicians just live loveless, sexless, like lives they
Mm-hmm.
can't they that they have to put up with, and
Mm-hmm.
she's just that type of woman in this book, and that's it. Next up, Hobgoblin. Like literally, that's what it says.
Yeah.
Next, Hobgoblin. Just in case you were wanting to read any kind of Hobgoblin story, this was not your month,
Mm-hmm.
but it will be
All I
next
can
month.
there's I don't know what the hell Bill Mantlo was thinking with the story. Like when it started out, the first page, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is gonna be something different. We're gonna get into some politics here, some
Mm-hmm.
satire." But the moment the baby was kidnapped, I was like, "What?" And then my baby's been kidnapped. Not a story by Robert Louis Stevenson. I'm not sure what. Like I didn't look it up, but I don't know if he did a story called "My Baby's Kidnapped" or
He
I don't
did
know.
for a young boys magazine. He did a novel called Kidnapped. But
Mm.
like most people, listeners out there will be more familiar with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this has.
Well,
I'm just trying to read what the plot is for Kidnapped. Hold on. Okay. The narrator is a 17-year-old David Balfour. His parents have recently died, and he is out to make his way in the world. He's given a letter by the. Okay, so it has nothing to do with this plot.
no.
No.
It's just maybe that's what Bill Mantlo was reading that week. But
Yeah.
I don't know. The plot is insane. The motivation, the woman's motivation is insane. The fact that Peter Parker forgave her is insane. I'm sorry, but you kidnapped a baby. It's just.
There's also still the dead baby in the apartment crib.
Yep.
I assume.
I didn't even.
I can
that.
only assume that
I'm quickly shuffling through the book now to get to that point.
I don't.
Okay,
think
so it's on original page 16.
Ooh.
It's in the middle of the page, all the way to the right. It says, she goes, I've come to ask you about Councilman Daly's baby. The Nino is gone, taken from me, just like my other one. Mm-hmm. And Spider-Man says, other one, oh my lord, and he's looking at a crib.
Oh
and
my
the caption
God.
says, the tiny body in the crude cradle has been dead for some hours.
What? I missed that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I don't know what Bill Mantlo was thinking, but
so dark.
Like it's fine if you want to do a story like this, but I don't think like this. It's like a mixture of too many things. Like the kidnapping the baby is one thing, okay, fine, but then you've got this implication that like my white baby is going to be kidnapped by a Latina woman, and then she'll be beaten up by black ghetto teenagers that are breakdancing, and it's like, who wrote this? You know, John Hughes, you know, like, I don't know.
What?
I mean, it's like, again, it's not, I don't hate it. I enjoyed reading it, but it's just so weird. Like, what was he thinking when he wrote this? That's what I think, you know?
Oh.
I didn't like it.
No.
I just...
It was painful. Like, you know when you go jogging a little bit, or you have to like jog really quick across the street, but like 5 minutes earlier you drank a whole bottle of water, and you kind of have to like lean over, grab your knees, and like inhale, exhale real quick. That's how I imagine we all are right now. Like, just in a little bit of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't understand what they were going for with this. Like,
right,
so much like random weird shit happens to tell this story of like practice what you preach type thing. Like, why were there weird like rabid killer dogs in this garbage pit? Like,
right.
Why was the woman so crazy to not only steal a baby, but to keep her dead baby in the? It's just like, nothing makes sense. Him going to the arcade and it being a front, and that having nothing to do with the story. Like, why an arcade? Like, why couldn't you just like? It just feels like it's more to explain and just more random stuff. Like, why not just go to like somebody who's dealing drugs or something on the street and then shake him up? Like, it doesn't make sense. You would go to an arcade. Like, if you're gonna say like, oh yeah, it was like I stopped that dope ring, like, in like a throwaway line after he runs away from an arcade. Like, everything just happens and there's no rhyme or reason to anything going on, and I don't know about you guys, but I was also kind of not a huge fan of the art as well.
Some of it I thought was really good.
Some of it was good, but then some of it just like felt off.
Yeah. Well, like, okay, if we just go to like the first page, I thought that opening page was great. Like, it's Dave Simons, by the way. He shows great panel composition, great storytelling. Although there was a weird sequence where the woman is in the background kidnapping the baby. And there's that middle panel where he has his finger up, and you're like, what is he doing there? Like, that's really poorly designed. I don't know if it's his fault or the writer's fault, Bill Mantlo. But the next shot, I know what you mean. Like, then he draws Spider-Man, and you realize he's not really a superhero artist.
No.
He's did a bunch of work on Conan and Red Sonja, which he's probably more suited to, and like Ghost Rider. But you can see that he can't really, his anatomy is not his specialty in action. But I think his texture is really good, personally.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really like strange details in the art as well. Mm-hmm. Like more detail than normally put. Like the thug that breaks into the woman's apartment has a Pac-Man hat on.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can see the Pac-Man pattern in every single panel he's in. Like it's very consistent. Even down to the point where like the kid that hustles Spider-Man has a Star Wars shirt on.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I don't know, and it's like tiny. Like you have to really like squint and look at it.
Good point.
And I'm looking at it on a computer. If I was looking at it on a comic, I probably wouldn't even realize that said Star Wars, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like it would be so small and like blurry. I don't think I'd even be able to see it, but there's just like a strange amount of detail in this comic.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think it, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Even the garbage on the stairs, like the eaten orange.
Right.
But the kind of orange you'd cut in half and you would eat with a spoon. Till you get that rind pattern. It's like, who thinks of this?
Right.
Yeah. It just seems weird, I think, because there's a lot of detail put into spots that I don't think matter or add anything to the story. Mm-hmm. And then other parts feel really rushed that should matter and should have more attention. Like the sequence of Spider-Man swinging through the city with the kids playing hopscotch or breakdancing or whatever. Mm-hmm. That Spider-Man is rough. It's on original page 10. Mm-hmm. It's like, what is this Gumby looking Spider-Man?
Well, but like it's funny. Then you go to the next page, original page 11. Look at the building when she's walking in.
Right.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. And I think that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that's what I mean is like there's so much detail in this alleyway. Mm-hmm. And it does add something to the panel itself, but does it add anything to the story?
No. But
you know what I mean? Like I feel like.
Yeah. Well, okay. Go to the next page, original 11 or 12. Look at that shot of Spider-Man hanging upside down on that rock, and then they're kind of in like the little tunnel there. To me, if this was a gothic horror, this is the kind of artwork you'd want, right? It'd be perfect for that. It's just not right for a superhero story, I think that's the problem. Mm-hmm. But and he obviously, like the shot of him fighting the wild dogs, it's clear anatomy is not his strong suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's a rough page.
Yeah, shout out to the dope buyer though in the arcade who's wearing a Menudo sweatshirt.
Oh yeah?
Yep. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah. This is honestly, it's like, now that you mentioned all the shirts, I'm looking back at it as like J. Jonah Jameson has a pattern on his tie, like so strange.
Right. I mean, even the thug when he's or the one guy when he's walking up the stairs, he's got Converse on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's so much like weird details, and then even as he's running away in like a far away shot, you could still tell that it's Converse. It's got like the circle logo and everything. Like it's so strange.
It's just kind of a classic amateur mistake where you put too much emphasis into the wrong things, right? Like he's putting so much effort into the Converse and the detail and the Star Wars shirt, but he's not putting it into the anatomy and the design, right? So yeah, that's the problem.
Right. And I don't think, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say, it's not really, to me though, it's not even a mistake. It's like, that's what makes this cool because everything else is stupid.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's not that I dislike it in this comic. I think it actually adds a lot, but I think where it might be a problem is the fact that maybe too much time was spent on that rather than fixing like some of the anatomy and like important poses.
Right.
Because I do really like a lot of this like small little details.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I don't know if Spider-Man has done this before. I don't really recognize him doing this, but on the last page, when he is hanging upside down, he's made almost like a hammock, and he's like holding onto it with his thighs rather than like his classic like feet together pose. It's I don't know. There's so many like small things that I think are really fun and cool in the art, but then there's others where like the characters don't look human, or they're like fighting these weird demon dogs that kind of look like rats.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I guess to me it goes back to he's a good artist, but maybe he just had more to learn at this point, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the weirdest stories I've ever read in my life. I can give it a mild recommendation just on its weirdness, but not rushing to reread it. What about you, Josh? Do you recommend it?
I don't think I would go out of my way to recommend this one. I would definitely want to talk to somebody about this. Like if somebody was sitting down to read this, I would definitely make sure to be like, let me know when you're done reading this, because there's so much I want to talk about and have to say about this issue. So,
G.I. Jolie, do you recommend it?
No.
Okay.
Maybe. Do you know what? Yes. If somebody was doing like a study of comics and they were just looking for really strange anomalies in superhero books, I'd be like, oh, have I got one for you. Well, there's this adventure where they go to sorry, I was just going to talk about the Valkyrie story. It would be that would be a toss between that one and this book. Like there's just so many things. Talk about like stories that shouldn't have happened like in succession, or like little instances of weirdness of things happening. Like this is weird. This is like almost Twilight Zone weird to me.
Yeah, but unintentionally, I think.
Yeah, unintentionally. Like it was almost borderline. When Josh mentioned that the baby died, I was like, oh god, this is like a horror comic. So yeah, maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, okay, no recommendations for actual reading, no. But as an anomaly of the genre, sure.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Okay.
All right. On that note, we are going to move on to an annual. Finally, the annuals are back. It's been a while. Amazing Spider-Man Annual 17. We got this really cool cover. All the annuals from this year had a design like this with a square with just a posed shot of the hero in the square. G.I. Jolie, are you a fan of this cover?
No.
Okay. I think it's pretty cool. It's not my favorite, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, well, is it pink? Was the original pink? The word annual?
I think. Oh yeah, for sure. This is the original.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's all right.
What does that have to do with it?
It's not. Well, you asked if I was a fan of it, and it's like, well, I'm not. I can't be a fan of something that I'm not super blown away by. Like, I'm not particularly taken by it. There's nothing to write home about. It's just Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Josh, do you agree?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I don't think it's fantastic, but it's a fine cover.
I should point out that at this point in Marvel's history, they almost never had pinup covers like this. They'd always have action and dialogue, right? A scene from the book.
Right.
This is probably one of the first times they had a whole theme for the annuals that year where it was just pinups like this. So, whatever. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
I mean, I've seen better design.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
Better design composition. This isn't like the best, but it's also not the worst.
So and it tells you nothing about the story. I thought this was a pretty good story. I want to point out it was plotted by Roger Stern, the regular writer of Amazing, and the script was done by Bill Mantlo, the regular writer of everything else. It's penciled by Ed Hannigan, who used to draw Spectacular. You remember, Josh, the early days of Spectacular for us. He did a really good run there with Bill Mantlo. And then inked by Jim Mooney, who has been inking many different Spider-Man titles for a few years now. But anyway, the hardest thing about this story for me is keeping track of all the different names. But I'm going to do my best here. So feel free to jump in and help here, guys. But basically, we've got this writer, we've got a publishing company called Milton Farr Publishing. A bunch of goons break into this office to get information out of this guy who is named, help me out here. Yeah, here we go. This is the first problem.
Yeah.
No one knows the guy's name. Because this is Milton Farr,
This
right?
is Milton Farr,
This is one of the Milton Farrs.
Okay.
Oh, no, this is Milton Farr. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm mixing up the names. Okay, so the reason they're roughing him up is because they want to get information out of him about the Kingpin. Obviously, the Kingpin of crime, Wilson Fisk. So then he's like, oh, I'm a coward. I can't take pain, but I know that whatever you jerks do to me, the Kingpin would do worse. So he's not going to talk. Then we cut over to Spider-Man's in yet another, he's beating up some more bad guys. These ones, it's another kind of just cold open where these guys are a fencing operation. I love how they just call it out. Who tipped him to our fencing operation? I just love that. But anyway, so yeah, he beats those guys up. And then, this is where it gets weird. Okay, so then he realizes on camera, but that doesn't amount to anything. So then we cut over to the Kingpin. The Kingpin's working out, and this guy is there. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this guy here is... Who is this guy? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, so this is Mr. Gilbert. Right. And Mr. Gilbert... Oh, boy. I just read this today, and I don't even remember what happened.
He seems to be the producer of the show.
Right. And Kingpin, he pisses off Kingpin, so he breaks both of his legs.
Oh.
Right.
Because this guy's trying to intimidate Kingpin. He's like, no, I know too much about your so-called business. If I'm taking the fall, you're going down with me. So then Kingpin just breaks his legs, right? And then he tells his cronies to clean him up. So meanwhile, Peter Parker goes to a high school reunion. And I actually really like this scene because I did read the 60s comics, but I don't remember if all these characters are real. But he basically touches base with all these people he went to high school with and kind of sees where they're at now, including Flash Thompson, including Flash Thompson. And then also this guy, I'm pretty sure this guy was just created for the story, but Louis Minnelli, who is basically sort of the hero, not the hero, but he's I guess the protagonist of the story, kind of. But anyway, so what we find out is that when Peter was in high school, this guy used to defend him against bullies that used to beat him up, right? By cracking jokes and basically distracting attention away from them beating up Peter Parker.
And the way that you know that he's Italian is his hair is slicked back and he has a pencil mustache.
Right.
God.
A lot of stereotypes from Bill Mantlo, but anyway, we'll give him a pass. So then, and this is the point where feel free to jump in because even though I just read this, I barely remember what happened.
Right.
But basically, so Spider-Man decides he's going to help him out, but why does he know that he's in danger? I can't remember.
You got me. Honestly, I kind of jumped through this one and it was just there was just so much.
Right. So, we'll figure it out as we go along. So he decides to help him because he feels like he owes him a favor. Okay, so now this Manelli guy is meeting up with what's his name? CJ Vogel. Yeah. So, but this is not the same guy from before, is it? No, the first guy. Okay, so let's just keep these characters straight here. So the first guy in the story was Milton Farr.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He was the other.
Milton Farr is the publisher.
This is the insurance guy.
Wait, he sells insurance?
And CJ is the one that helped Peter out.
Don't worry, guys. We've been doing this a year. We'll get good at it one day. But anyway.
So, he helps Peter out, and he's a comedy writer.
Right.
Yes.
That's who helped him out. The Italian guy with the slick back hair and the pencil mustache, he's the insurance salesman that's made a lot of money selling insurance. He even tries to sell it to Peter.
Right.
So it's CJ. Right. So later on, we see Spider-Man watching CJ, and he meets up with Louis Manelli.
Mm-hmm. Wait.
Yeah, Louis Manelli's the one. Okay. Yes.
There we go. Yeah,
oh, boy.
there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, wow. And then I'm like looking at these. Yeah, I look at these pages. Oh yeah. So then we cut back to what's his name, who's still getting roughed up. The guy from the first scene, Milton Farr.
Right.
But he's still not talking. So then we cut over to the waterfront, and now who is this now? So this is Louis. Oh, this is Louis and CJ again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, oh, geez.
Honestly, I'm not exactly sure what's going on in this issue.
That's what I mean. It's like it's a cool attempt, but yeah, it's I could not keep track of who was who, what their motivation was, or what was going on.
Right.
Yeah, there's like some kind of pseudonym style, like I'm the writer, the secret writer, like something to do with somebody named Remington Colt, and everybody there have been a lot of ghostwriters underneath that name, and that's the tie-in to it seems to be the tie-in to Farr Publishing, but I don't know how, like, do you want potentially, like, I didn't get the end of this one, but I imagine that CJ Vogel is somehow managing to write under that name as the only writer we've been introduced to professionally. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So this guy is worried. He doesn't want it to come out that he is used to write the smut because he's currently working on this kids TV show, right? And so the information about him with his previous publishing career is held in this little thing that also has dirt on the Kingpin, right? And so it's kept in this, office underneath this thing or whatever. And so Spider-Man's like, well, I'm going to help out my buddy. So I'm going to go and find this thing, pull out the documents that prove that he was this writer. And when he pulls it out, we see these things like with titles like The Shocking Truth About Hitler's Secret Harem. I Married the Marquis de Sade, A True Tale of Reincarnation. And then he's like, okay, so he takes those out, and then he puts this like big cylinder back into the ground. And he's like, okay, well, I did what I wanted to do to help my buddy. I'm going to take off. Then Milton Farr comes into the room, and he wants to get the stuff too. But then when he gets it, what's his name? Oh, no, sorry, CJ. CJ does it, but then Louis Manelli pulls a gun on him because he wants the thing because it's got the information on the Kingpin, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, so then he's like, I saw you on the way here while I was out looking for you. Perfect time. What a coincidence. I figured you might lead me to something, so I turned around and followed you. I was right. You're a real stooge, CJ. The only proof that you were once Remington Colt was in Farr's safe, and you've led me right to it. But you knew, Louis. How could you have known unless you've seen the files? I seen him, but I never knew where he hid him. Don't you see? There were dozens of Remington Colts. So, yeah. This is kind of an attempt at a film noir, but not a very good one,
No.
Not a bad one, but not good.
if we're going off of the pocket analogy, this is the piece of Hubba Bubba that you got in your pocket, and you unwrap it and you put it in your mouth, and it tastes pretty good when you start off. Like, dang, this is some good bubble gum.
Yeah.
And then a few seconds in, you're like, this is stale. This is stale as shit. It's all the flavor has been sucked dry from this piece of gum.
It starts
in the first
hard.
half. It starts getting hard. My teeth are literally hurting chewing this thing by the end of it. And like, I'm so done that I can't even finish. I just spit it out at the end. And like, I honestly don't remember the last half of this comic. No. I read this a little while ago now. And I'm skimming through this. I don't even remember most of the stuff that happened at the end because it was just so dry.
Yeah.
It's not awful. Like, it's not bad. Nothing stupid is happening. It's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by the end of it? It's like,
I think it's like, okay, we have to break it down. The fact that it was plotted by Roger Stern, I'm going to say I think the idea is good. I don't think the execution's terrible. It's just not, it doesn't quite gel, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I like the art and I like some of the writing, but it just doesn't quite, like, again, the fact that we all read this, we were all confused about who was who and what was going on. There's nothing I can pinpoint as to what went wrong, but clearly something did go wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, even the whole high school reunion scene, like, really all that amounted to was reintroducing that guy, but couldn't they have done that in a quicker, simpler way than having this huge scene of him seeing all these people? You know what I mean? Because if all you need to do is introduce that guy, you could have done it. He could have just ran into him at like a coffee shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe the fact that it was an annual, they had to fill more pages. Maybe there was really only enough story for 22 pages, but they had to stretch it out to 52 or whatever it was, you know?
I feel like that's definitely a reason why they made the reunion, because they spent a lot of time with all of the other characters from Peter's past, which was fun. But it definitely didn't add anything to the story. And then introducing those two characters like at the same time.
Right. It's just
was a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like, I know they're drawn differently and they have different names, but it still was hard to keep track of who these different guys were. I don't know who to blame, if it's the artist, the writer, like, I don't know, but it just didn't quite click. And then the other thing we didn't mention is at the end of the story, Peter Parker's kind of disillusioned because he realized he's like, he wanted to help this guy, but he's like,
Right. And I think, doesn't he say something like, you're only helping me out so you can get the files for yourself because it would make a good story.
Right.
And then that's when Peters is upset because he's upset that he thinks that his friend his friend thinks that he would betray him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like, all I was doing was trying to return the favor, but you're not the selfless Samaritan you were back in high school, CJ. You've shown that you're willing to sacrifice anything to save yourself, and I don't owe you anything anymore. Yeah. And then we see a 26-foot Peter Parker walking away from a 2-foot man behind him. But
in the shadow, oh god, his shadow is Spider-Man, and it's like, why does everybody have an axe to grind about their old high school mates? Everyone.
Yeah.
Even like, I mean, I do too, but I don't hold anyone. Like,
I do too, but anyway, yeah.
I'm not sitting here holding like CJ up on a pedestal or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to, like, I don't know. I don't know what message this is sending. Like, is it that he's actually better than all of them or something? And then but he can't.
Yeah.
He's the one that's probably changed the most for the better. He can't tell anyone.
He's burdened with how awesome he's become.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I mean. I told you, got axe to grind. That's so bogged down with how like the monarch butterfly that I am today.
Mm.
Oh god. But yeah, this one was painful in a different way.
So yeah. What are we gonna say, Josh?
So what was your guys' favorite part of the comic, and why was it Kingpin in a Speedo?
Because the Speedo, probably a G-string. I love it.
Oh my god. I love that he's got this like secret meeting with this dude, and he just takes off all of his clothes, he strips down to his Speedo and just starts pumping some iron.
Yep.
What is happening? Oh god.
Oh, there wasn't. There
I'm trying to
honestly
get to
was
that
not
page.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's. I also got to point out quickly, there have been writers that have said that Kingpin is actually not fat; it's all muscle. But anyway.
Well.
Yeah. What were we gonna say?
Hello?
Joey?
We lost you.
Who?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, I think maybe you disconnected for a second.
Oh, sorry, I'm away from the Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's okay.
Ah, crap. Okay. I'm back, I think.
Okay. So, what were you gonna say, Jolie?
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
Okay.
I was.
Oh,
okay. Do you know what I'm really surprised about? Is that, like, the art's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Hannigan is a great comic book artist, so yeah, the art is fine.
Yeah, I really dig it because it, like, I collect romance comics, and it was very, like, they had romance comic, like, there's a romance comic style about it.
Well, that could also be Jim Mooney's inking, because Jim Mooney's famous for doing Supergirl, right? So he's got that kind of romance comic vibe. But yeah, like, but the storytelling was great. The layouts were great. I mean, this guy's great at film noir. Like, he did some issues of Spectacular that Josh and I reviewed that were just excellent. I thought. Yeah, it's like this has all the elements of a good comic. It just doesn't gel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it would be. I want to say, it doesn't read like a comic. It reads like a novel, like prose, and it would have. I feel like it was just so long.
Yeah, I think it also felt, obviously it's double the size of a regular comic, but the dialogue, there's just so much of it too.
Yeah.
I mean, even during the reunion, there's just so much dialogue. There's inner dialogue. It's just like the page is full of it. So like we have Peter walking up to Liz and Harry, and the two of them tell Peter that Liz is pregnant, right? And they have this cute little exchange.
You didn't.
But it does also say on Liz's shirt, "baby," with an arrow pointing to her stomach.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. It just seems like there's just so much dialogue and like junk that's being said when we can clearly see what's happening.
Right.
I don't know. This baby shirt seems just completely ridiculous because they're talking about it. Yeah. Like, she's openly talking about it to everybody she sees. So why is it like such a big deal to have this shirt? Like, it just...
Right. Well, that's probably just a case of... We kind of talked about this with Kyle, about the way that would kind of just shoehorn in Peter Parker's supporting cast, and like, it's like, okay, every once in a while we just got to touch base and find out what everyone's up to. You know, that's what I feel like this is. But it doesn't contribute anything to the story.
No. Yeah. But and I'm fine with it. Like, I don't. It didn't take me out of the story that he's chatting with old friends and finding out that they're starting a family together. Like, I don't hate that. I just don't think it was done well.
Necessary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm just kind of looking through it again. Sorry, go ahead.
I am not sure. Do we know, like, does Harry become a dad?
Good
Is
question.
this something that, like...
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes. Yes, he does.
Okay.
But I don't know if I want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read it.
I'm about to read it in Wikipedia.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it matters, does it?
Well, no, I guess anyone who's listening to this has probably read ahead, but you know, I can't remember what happens, but yeah, he does have a son, I think, but I don't remember what happens.
Oh, okay.
But anyway. So yeah, there's our 1 year anniversary episode.
Yeah.
Again, we're in my opinion, we're still in kind of the nether of Spider-Man comics. We're not quite to my favorite area yet, although I am happy that Roger Stern is doing amazing. And I do like Bill Mantlo. He's just really hit and miss. Like, he has done some of the best Spider-Man stories I've read, and unfortunately some of the worst. But coming up in the next few weeks, we are going to be, getting to the Black Costume. We're going to be getting to Tom DeFalco on Amazing. So, definitely stick around. We got some really good comics coming up. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. It really helps if you leave a review over on Apple Podcast, or you can drop us a line and tell us what you think about the podcast on Twitter at HCT Spidercast, and you can find us at the Comic Book Syndicate pretty much anywhere else. So yeah, we want to hear from you guys. Let's keep that conversation going.
That's right. So until next Monday, this has been Here Comes the Spidercast.
All right, see you then.
Bye.